Invincible Season 4 is going to be absolutely epic. Today, we're going to go over all the plot points that were left hanging in Season 3, and how they will continue, based on what happens in the comics. We're also going to take a look at what Robert Kirkman has said, plus all the stuff posted by the official Invincible accounts, to figure out what's coming next in this 4th season. Spoilers ahead. You've been warned. Don't come crying in the comments later. Since Season 3 ended right on issue 65, it makes sense that Season 4 would pick up with the next one, where we head to space to follow the adventures of Nolan and Alan. This picks up right after the cliffhanger from episode 4. After escaping the Viltrumite prison, Nolan told Alan they didn't have to rush, since no agents would be coming after them. They just couldn't afford it, because there were fewer than 50 pure Viltrumites left in the entire universe. That's the key to taking them down. As a callback to the 2 times he told Mark the story of Viltrum, Nolan explains to Alan that Viltrum's enemies created a virus designed to specifically target their DNA. It was called the Scourge virus, and it was definitely deadly. By the time the Empire scientists found a cure, it was already too late. 99% of the population was dead, and Viltrum's plans for conquest were in shambles. They couldn't send full armies to conquer planets anymore, because they didn't have the numbers. Fearing the rest of the universe would attack if they found out how few Viltrumites were left, the leaders kept the virus a secret. Their new goal became blending with other species to reproduce and grow their numbers, which used to be forbidden. This was already mentioned in Season 2. The Viltrumites who arrived on Thraxia told Nolan he wasn't allowed to reproduce with weaker species, and that they needed to kill Oliver because he was tainting their race.
Precisely what racists would say.
What we didn't know until now is that Nolan's mission on Earth was to conquer the planet and turn it into a breeding camp. Humans and Viltrumites are genetically compatible, making them a perfect match. You better remember this, because it's going to be super important for the season finale. After the exposition dump, Nolan heads to Telescria to deliver the info to Thaddeus in person. Convinced they can beat Viltrum, they start planning an attack, but they need more soldiers and better weapons. In issues 66 and 67, Nolan and Alan go to different planets that Nolan visited back when he worked for Viltrum. We visit the world of the Ragnar, the ones shown in Season 2, when Mark was reading his dad's books. They find poisons and recruit the guy with the invincible weapon. At the end of issue 67, Thaddeus reveals he's the one who created the virus that nearly wiped out the Viltrumites. This is going to be super important in the coming seasons. This story could totally be a full episode, probably the first one of Season 4, but Invincible doesn't show up at all, and only gets a quick mention, so I wouldn't be surprised if they break this arc up into chunks and mix it with Mark and Eve's adventures on Earth. Back on the 3rd planet, probably in the 2nd episode of this season, Mark is helping rebuild a bunch of cities after the battle with Conquest. Then Dinosaurus shows up. He's a dinosaur-looking genius with extreme eco-terrorist methods, trying to heal the world from human destruction. Unlike the pure evil of a Viltrumite like Conquest, Dinosaurus genuinely believes he's saving the planet, even if it means mass destruction. He argues that even reconstruction efforts can hurt the environment. Mark initially fights him, finding Dinosaurus to be a formidable foe who challenges his worldview. The interesting part is, Mark gradually begins to see Dinosaurus' point of view, turning their conflict into a more nuanced clash of ideals. This character hasn't been officially confirmed yet, but it would be the perfect time to introduce him. He plays a crucial role in the future, and his arrival would highlight the season's core themes, while challenging Mark in meaningful ways. Season 3 already hinted that Mark needs to rethink his approach to saving the world, making Dinosaurus an ideal addition. Later on in issue 68, we also see Mark meeting Eve's parents, and Oliver shows up all grown up. He's got the body of a teen now, and wears a new suit that looks just like Omni-Man's, only black instead of white. He changes his name too. Instead of Kid Omni-Man, he's now calling himself Young Omni-Man.
Big change.
This 2nd episode should also wrap up the Conquest cliffhanger. Cecil locked him in an underground prison to get info out of him, but once he heals up, Conquest escapes and flies off naked. Instead of continuing his mission to take over Earth, he just bails, leaving Cecil looking like a fool. Keep in mind, Cecil didn't tell Invincible anything about this, so by this point, only Cecil and Donald know Conquest is still alive. That's gonna stay a secret for a bit. To stir up more drama, issue 68 also resolves another cliffhanger from Season 3. When Eve is at Mark's house, she takes a pregnancy test, and it's positive. That's why her powers failed when she took off Mark's suit in the Season 3 finale. But Mark won't find out the truth for a long time. With all the life or death stuff they're dealing with, Eve won't have time to tell him they're having a baby. That's gonna lead to a pretty heavy consequence later. Maybe one of the most controversial scenes in the whole show, but we probably won't see that until Season 5.
Patience is not one of my virtues.
Next up, we've got 2 stories happening at the same time, most likely in the same episode. Universa shows up, and there's a 3rd round with the Sequids. Universa appears for the first time in issue 69. She's a super strong alien warrior who comes to Earth to steal our planet's energy and save her dying homeworld. Mark obviously can't let that happen, so they end up fighting one-on-one. As usual, Invincible gets knocked out after absorbing the power of Universa's spear, but Eve saves the day. It might seem like a filler villain of the week type of story, but it's actually cool to see Eve beating a villain without using her powers. Even though she pulls it off, she starts doubting herself because her powers keep failing due to the pregnancy. At the same time, Russ Livingston unleashes the Sequids on Earth again, this time with way more of them, like we saw at the end of Season 3. The new Guardians of the Globe step in to take him down. We have Monster Girl, Robot, Bulletproof, Black Samson, Shapesmith, and Brit. Brit wasn't in the first 2 seasons, but he popped up during the Invincible War, and we saw him again in the meeting with Cecil in Episode 7. It's pretty likely he'll be back in Season 4 as the new leader of the Guardians, now that Immortal's retired. But with or without Brit, the heroes get absolutely wrecked by the Sequids. Invincible shows up to save the day, and we get a key moment from Mark's character. In the middle of the fight, he tells the Sequid leader that he's not gonna let some silly starfish invade his planet. But right after saying it, he hesitates, because he's not even sure if Earth is still his planet. Robot uses some disruptors to break the bond between the Sequids and their hosts. But when that fails, Mark decides to kill Russ to end the invasion. He convinces himself it was the only way to stop it, but Robot disagrees. Russ was just a victim being controlled by the Sequids. He wasn't the real villain. That would be a great way to end Episode 3. After that, they should adapt the events of the Invincible Returns special. Cecil brings Mark back to GDA headquarters for a talk because he's worried about him. Mark says maybe he was wrong to kill Russ, but he's not exactly sorry about it. His moral code is clearly changing because when he runs into Sinclair at the GDA base, he doesn't try to rip him in half like he did with Darkwing in Season 3. He's starting to get where Cecil's coming from. But before they can keep talking, Titan and Mr. Liu go at it again in the city. Mark steps in, and they all get arrested. This fight's a lot shorter than the last one, but I wouldn't be surprised if they stretched it out in the show to give us a bit more action before the Viltrumite War. The return of these characters hasn't been confirmed, but it'd be wild if they didn't include them. We already saw Liu's body get rescued by his bodyguard at the end of Episode 5 in Season 3. This would be a good way to wrap up that arc. Meanwhile, Conquest meets with Krieg and the big boss, Thragg. He's the leader of the Viltrumites, the main villain of the whole series, and the lead singer of Queen. The official Invincible account already confirmed Thragg has been cast, though they haven't said who's voicing him. Thragg orders Conquest to intercept Alan, Nolan, and Mark, since he knows they're gearing up to go against him. Back on Earth, Mark decides to leave behind this darker phase, where he was okay with killing, and he switches back to his classic suit. When he gets home, Nolan and Alan show up to recruit him. They're ready to go fight Viltrum.
I'll be damned if I didn't get really turned on.
In issue 71, we get a super awkward reunion between Debbie and Nolan. Alan also recruits Tech Jacket, who had a small cameo during the Invincible War. Can't say for sure if he'll show up again, but I hope so. He should be getting a lot of screen time this season. Then Invincible and the rest of the heroes fight the Flaxons again. These green aliens first showed up back in Season 1. Omni-Man nearly wiped out their whole race, but now they're back trying to conquer Earth a second time. Just like last time, they have to pull out because they start aging rapidly and can't keep fighting. But Robot realizes these guys are way too dangerous. Since time moves differently in their dimension, they'll have decades to prep for the next invasion, and the Guardians might not be able to stop them next time. So Robot and Monster Girl go through the portal into their homeworld to make sure they never come back. We won't see these two again until Season 5, in a storyline that's definitely gonna get people talking. Amanda is a bitch. That's all I'm gonna say. In this same issue, we get the start of the Viltrumite War, with Nolan, Alan, Mark, Oliver, and Tech Jacket heading out into space. But before that, we gotta talk about this loose end from Season 3. In this scene, we saw Detective Damian Darkblood in Hell. This totally caught fans off guard, since Darkblood hadn't shown up since Season 1, and he doesn't come back in the comics either. In the show, Darkblood was sent to Hell by Cecil, which didn't happen in the comics. He ends up making a deal with this pint-sized Hellspawn, voiced by Bruce Campbell. They talk about summoning a powerful surface dweller down to the underworld. In an interview with Variety, Kirkman said he always wanted to do a story where the hero goes to Hell to fight the devil, but never got the chance. Sounds like Darkblood is out for revenge after getting banished. He probably blames Cecil and maybe Mark too, just for being part of Cecil's team back in Season 1. Darkblood's plan looks like it involves tricking or forcing Mark to come down to Hell, maybe to trade Mark's soul for his own freedom, or to use Mark to take down a demon. Kirkman also confirmed that Darkblood would help push Mark into a fight against Satan. He even hinted that the little demon guy might actually be Satan himself. According to Invincible's Instagram account, this is going to be a totally original story. It might take up a full episode right before Invincible heads off into space. I get that some people are annoyed, thinking it's just filler to stretch out Season 4 and save the Viltrumite War for the very end. But if Kirkman's directly involved, there's no reason to think it can't be a solid story. It's even possible that Mark doesn't show up in this arc at all, and Kirkman uses Darkblood and the Hell storyline to focus on the other characters. Issues 72 to 77 are all set in space, so we don't see Debbie, Cecil, or Eve during that time. Maybe the ones who end up going to hell are the Guardians and Eve, which would be a cool way to develop them more while Invincible's off fighting Conquest and Thragg. I wouldn't rule out Darkblood bringing back one of the evil Invincible variants either, since he said he was going to use a surface dweller who had turned evil. It'd be awesome to see Eve in action after Conquest ripped her in half. We'd finally get to see her win a big fight without Mark around. The show's already given her more screen time than the comics did, so that seems pretty possible. By the way, if you're enjoying this, don't forget to subscribe. I've got plenty more videos about Invincible coming up.
Don't tell me what to do.
And now, we finally made it to what everyone was waiting for. The Viltrumite War. Nolan, Alan, Mark, Oliver, and Tech Jacket head to Telescria to meet with Thaddeus, but they get ambushed by Conquest, Krieg, and Lucan. Lucan was in Season 2. He's the one who broke Nolan's back on Thraxia, so those two definitely have beef. This fight is nuts. It's a full-on brawl with punches flying everywhere. It's an all versus all kind of fight. Way more chaotic than anything we've seen before in the show. Oliver's the first one to tap out because he can't hold his breath any longer. Remember, Viltrumites can't breathe in space, but they can hold it for a long time. Oliver's the youngest, and this is his first time out in space, so he heads to the nearest planet to breathe. Conquest, of course, chases him, always targeting the weakest. Thankfully, Mark cuts him off before he can hurt Oliver. He grabs him by the throat, trying to finally finish him off. Conquest fights back, stabbing Mark in the stomach just like he did to Eve, but Mark doesn't let go. Conquest finally dies from suffocating, but Mark is left completely wrecked. This is one of the most brutal and disgusting scenes in the entire comic. The brawl wraps up by issue 73. Lucan and Krieg retreat to Viltrum, while Alan and Tech Jacket head back to Telescria. Nolan and Oliver take care of Mark, who can't even chew on his own at this point. From here, the story splits into two threads. On one side, the coalition of planets starts attacking Viltrum's colonies to free them. On the other, Nolan, Mark, and Oliver end up stranded on a desert planet for months. Once Mark recovers and they return to Telescria, things aren't looking good. Thragg used a mole to gather intel on the coalition and launched a surprise attack. We see Krieg again, and fan favorite Anissa returns too. The coalition managed to destroy Thragg's ships, and the regent pulls his forces back. Everyone regroups on Viltrum to plan a counterattack. That leads to issue 75, where we meet the new coalition team: Mark, Nolan, Alan, Oliver, Tech Jacket, Space Racer, and Battle Beast. They all head to Viltrum, where Thula, also from Season 2, shows up again. But the real threat is Thragg. He's the best fighter in the Empire, and basically the strongest being in the universe, at least in one-on-one combat. He takes out Oliver in a single move and leaves him in a coma. This battle is different from anything before. Viltrumites are swarming everywhere, and all our favorite characters get their moments. The fight shifts when Thaddeus realizes they can't win by taking out each Viltrumite one by one, so they decide to blow up the entire planet. With a shot from Space Racer and the combined strength of Thaddeus, Nolan, and Mark, they punch through Viltrum and literally make it go boom. I'm guessing the studio's gonna save up all the animation budget for this scene. It should be the biggest, most jaw-dropping moment of the whole season. It's literally 12 full pages in the comic. Enraged, Thragg kills Thaddeus. He brushes off Battle Beast, a little teaser for their epic fight later on. Then he goes toe-to-toe with Mark and Nolan, but they just can't stop him. He knocks them out effortlessly. Thragg could have killed them then and there, but for reasons we still don't know, he spares them. The Viltrumites retreat, and Mark and Nolan get rescued by the coalition. Once they're healed up, Alan tells them he's the new leader. He's stepping in after Thaddeus' death. We also find out the Viltrumites disappeared, and no one knows where they went. Everything seems really nice and good, but Mark suspects they went to Earth to get revenge for the destruction of Viltrum. After the most stressful spaceship ride ever, where he imagines Thragg murdering all his loved ones, Mark finally lands on Earth, and nothing happened. Thragg didn't kill anyone yet. He wants to negotiate. Thragg tells him that only 37 Viltrumites are still alive, and all of them are now disguised on Earth, pretending to be humans. Their plan is to stay hidden and reproduce, so the Viltrumites don't go extinct. This is basically a remix of the original breeding camp plan. Of course, once their kids grow up, Thragg can rebuild the Empire, and everything starts all over again. But Nolan knows this is a deal they can't refuse. There's no way to stop 37 Viltrumites before they destroy Earth. So Mark accepts the truce, knowing he'll be living among undercover Viltrumites who could strike any time. It's a bittersweet ending. The war's over and the good guys survived, but they didn't really win. But there's more. If Season 4 follows the same structure as the previous ones, there'll probably be an epilogue showing where everyone's at after the big battle. In issue 78, Debbie reveals she broke up with Paul off screen, so Nolan's got a chance to win her pet back. I'm guessing the show will give more attention to that relationship, since Paul had quite a bit of screen time. I'm totally expecting an uncomfortable love triangle here. We also see Mark reuniting with Eve, who's gained some weight. This will be explained in Season 5. The final scene will likely be the last 2 pages of issue 78, where Alan is on Telescria, reading a letter from from Thaddeus. The former leader says he perfected the Scourge virus, making it even more deadly than before. He urges Alan to use it to wipe out the Viltrumites if they're ever about to lose the war, no matter the cost. Even if that means sacrificing Mark and Nolan. It's the only way to fully destroy the Viltrum Empire and bring peace to the universe. That's the huge cliffhanger leading into the next season, because you can bet Alan's gonna try using that virus. But before we get to that in 2027, we might finally hear something about the live-action Invincible movie that Kirkman's been wanting to make since 2003. I know a lot of fans hate the idea, but there are 4 ways it could actually work. I'll try to convince you in this video over here.
Come on, don't bullshit me.